Hello, I am Doc Phineas, and some people have called me the world's most interesting man. Well, this video is all about me, and welcome to my life. Welcome to my home, Balmont Manor. I designed Balmont Manor, as you can see around me, to be a reflection of my life. And I suppose in many ways, I'm someone who has lived 30 lifetimes in 70 years. But I want to share with you all of the wonderful aspects that you know about Doc when you see me on television shows like Pawn Stars, Mysteries at the Museum, Jay Leno's Garage, Savant Squad, Touched, Haunted Hospitals, Fright Club. When you see me appear on these TV shows, you see me primarily appear as an expert. And as you can see around me, this is my world, this is my realm. 50 years of nonstop travel, 50 years of being a college professor in the field of archaeology, and 50 years of being a world traveler, traveling in over 130 countries. So welcome to my home, Balmont Manor, which is, I think, a reflection of my life, of who I am. Some people are very interested in finding out why Doc Phineas is such a character, so eccentric. So, of course, they call me the Great Time Traveler. And as you might know, I am a world-famous steampunk in the steampunk movement. So the steampunk movement basically is we consider ourselves to be time travelers. We're people who have traveled from the 19th century, from the time of Queen Victoria and Abraham Lincoln, into the current time period on our time machines. We're scientists, we're archaeologists, we're hunters, we're people who have come from the 19th century to try to help the people of the 21st century. But we appear quite eccentric in the clothing that we wore from the time period that we came from. And in that way, many people have called me on the History Channel, on Discovery Channel, on CNBC, various channels that I appear on as the traveler in time. And I do believe that I am that too. So as you look around my house, you will see many, many amazing artifacts. And these come from many, many years of doing archaeological, anthropological work. They are amazing collections of fabric and costume. They're also amazing antiquities. Here we actually have a puppet of Guru Padma Sambhava from Tibet. This beautiful Puchakuli comes from Rajasthan, from Pushkar, from the camel festival that's held there. And many of these things in my home are over hundreds of years old, literally hundreds of years. So you'll see many, many deities, many artifacts that have come from India, fabulous, amazing paintings, and incredible antiquities that are, in fact, museum quality. Every single one of the things in my home have a backstory, just like myself. But that backstory is what makes it interesting as an expert. That provenance, that story, that is what gives things value on Pawn Stars. When you see me out there on these many, many television shows as an expert, I am the man who comes in and knows that backstory on the antiquities that you see on many of those shows. And as you look around my home here at Balmont Manor in Las Vegas, you know that I am the real deal because you can see I have been collecting these antiquities for many, many years. At the age of 70, I have literally been out there in the field, in Valley of the Kings, in Egypt. I am that guy, like Indiana Jones, that goes climbing through the pyramids. I'm that guy in Valley of the Kings who actually goes into the tomb of King Tut, looking at every single microscopic detail. Anything that tells the story of Tut, anything that tells us about life in Egypt 3,000 years ago. These are the things I am trying to uncover. And these are the things that you will see me talk about when I'm on the History Channel, when I'm on Discovery, when I'm on various television shows. That expert, Doc Phineas, or when Rick Harrison calls for Phineas to help him, that is the body of work, of years of archaeology that literally I have been excavating, trying to explain to people the provenance, trying to give to people the marvelous and incredible history of our planet. So this has been my passion, this has been my joy, and my legacy, I suppose, if you're looking at things that define in this world who I am. I am that man, that time traveler. I am that real Indiana Jones who literally goes into the tombs to explain history. I am that man with many hats and many names and many stories, the old storyteller, the old time traveler who has come to this time period to try to enlighten the people as to the story of history, the story of humanity. Let's take a look through my home once again, through Balmont Manor, so that you can literally see these beautiful collections of things and of objects. Things which tell the story. So many people are interested in my backstory. How did you get into this? Why are you so fascinated with history? And to answer that question, I would like to take you a little bit into my lair of seeing the various antiquities in my home and talking about my personal backstory that has made me and shaped me into the person that I am today. So without further ado, let's talk a bit about Belmont Manor and who Doc Phineas is. I'm going to say the significant portion of my life occurred growing up in the Midwest. And I'm a Kansas boy. I grew up in a small Midwestern town in Kansas. But the difference between me and many of the other people that I grew up with was that my parents insisted on me traveling. So I spent the early part of my childhood, even at the age of 14, heading out by myself to Paris, to England, to Switzerland, and actually studying at the age of 14 at the University of Switzerland. So I had a lot of experience in travel at a very, very young age. A lot of my journey began when I was a small boy. I was extremely interested in Native American culture, and I was living in Kansas, almost on the Kansas-Oklahoma border, where every day I could go into amazing places like Akron, Oklahoma, and to Buffalo Ranch, and I was interviewing from the time I was a small age with Native American leaders, Native American chiefs like Chief Buffalo Robe, who basically, told me the story of the buffalo, told me the story of the Native Americans, told me of the story of the Trail of Tears, told me of their earlier life in another part of America. This was a wonderful childhood, a childhood which was literally filled with so much history that I became a history buff as a very young boy. I literally think that I started going on archaeological digs when I was just very, very young, because I was out there in the Native American world. I was out there at powwows. I was going with them to their sacred holy grounds. I had been to the sacred holy places of the Cherokee Nation, the Washashi Nation, the Osage, the Ponca, the Choctaw. Many of the tribes that were living in Oklahoma opened up completely their culture to me. I became a fancy dancer. When I was 5 years old, I was going to powwows and dancing, and many of my relatives are Cherokee, so it was a wonderful, wonderful way to understand my family history and to understand the world around me in those days. That interest stayed with me a long time, and it eventually culminated in the experience of going and living in New Mexico. So I had at one time a beautiful home in Taos, New Mexico, and lived in Santa Fe. I was all a part of the Taos and Santa Fe scene, and I believe that interest opened up the entire world to me, where suddenly I became very, very interested in things from India, Occidental culture, tribalism throughout the world, that led me into my collections of things that are tribal, and things that come from India, from Africa, from so many places like that around the world. As an archaeologist, anthropologist at the University of California, Berkeley, I spent much of the 60s and the 1970s traveling the world. At one point in time, in 1970, I literally went around the world visiting over 30 countries. And at those trips, I ended up with so many artifacts from Africa, from various tribals that I visited in, all the way from New Guinea to New Zealand, to Rajasthan, to Africa, to Timbuktu, to Mali, along the Zambezi River, and all through Egypt. I had literally traveled the world. By the time 1974, 1975 came around, I believed that I had been in over 60 countries, mostly studying in archaeology, in many cases collecting gorgeous artifacts that were basically for the university. And, I was curating in those days for many, many museums around the world. And that experience of really seeing authentic artifacts and getting to know the world of artifacts, how to purchase these, how to find a good artifact, how to find something that is in fact museum quality, sort of became my raison d'etre in life, where I literally was just trying to curate the best things to make a beautiful museum, stuff that I could bring home back to the University of California, Berkeley, where I was an associate professor, and so that I had lots and lots of show and tell for all of the students. So that is when you see me on Pawn Stars and you see me come in and literally nail an artifact, literally tell people, okay, that's authentic, that's not authentic. That is very collectible, that is not worth anything. I'm not joking. I'm literally coming in as the real deal, because I've been doing this for years and years, curating for people, helping people find things that are of value. People who want to travel and come home with not just a souvenir, but actually come home with museum quality, beautiful pieces, examples of tribal work around the world. That is literally, what I've been engaged in. And my interests weren't just in tangible, large artifacts, but in jewelry and in all different kinds of fields and areas of things that people create. I became that expert. So that career in college was a very, very significant thing. And most of that time was spent in India. I spent often on 7 years just studying Indian culture, in many cases collecting beautiful, beautiful Indian fabrics. I have in my home here at Balmont Manor, I have over 1,000 different fabrics. Most of them are antiquities. Most of them are absolutely luscious and date back years and years and years. I have robes that are hand embroideries that are over 200 years old, that were, all done in Rajasthan among the gypsy people there of the Nath tribe. And that dates back, my goodness, to a time period where the women were really engaged in the tribe in doing embroidery. Now, when you go to many of these countries, that whole concept of doing stuff by hand is literally, something of the past, something that is rare, something that unfortunately people just don't do it anymore. So I tried to keep alive the most beautiful tribal things that I could find and have them where I could wear them to class and show my students not only how they're worn, but just show my students the beauty of tribal things, beauty of handmade things, which is in so many ways today, it's a bit of a lost art. So that is a big reason for a lot of my collections, and it's a big reason for Balmont Manor, which is a repository of all of these years of travel. It's a repository for so many artifacts from so many amazing, famous painters that are no longer alive today, of people from tribal groups that I've known well that were the very best in their field, in their beadwork, in working with real eagle feathers, and creating things that were magical, that were a part of the tribal shamanism, things that were so beautifully woven and functional for keeping foodstuffs, and things that tell the ancient stories of many of these tribes, which goes back literally thousands of years. These were the things that turned me on, that led me more into archaeology, that led me more as a professor into history and provenance and antiquities and anthropology, as we look back and literally start telling the story of mankind. And we start focusing on the most noble creations of humankind. And what is the meaning to many of these things that have spiritual and religious significance to the tribe? This, in so many ways, became my raison d'etre, became the thing that turned me on, and also became, I would say, the main way that I became known on television here in modern days. Now, my TV career actually goes back to my childhood. And for those of you who have been following my career for many, many years, and I know many of you out there have, I was a child star. I started actually singing and dancing like when I was 3 years old. And by the time I was 5, I was making appearances on a lot of shows that some of you may remember from the 1950s, such as The Pinky Lee Show. I was Pinky Lee's sidekick. I was out there tap dancing, singing, just any way that I could be in front of the camera. I was basically there from the time I was a small child. My mother had a relative who lived very, very near Disneyland. And so in the 1950s, when Disneyland had just kind of like first come on the scene and first opened, she said, I really think we should take him to see Uncle Walt. I think Uncle Walt is going to love this young man. And so I had the opportunity to go and meet Walt Disney, and Walt just absolutely took to me, and he said, wow, that kid has the biggest eyes I've ever seen on any young person. So I basically, started working in movies and making appearances on various shows like The Wonderful World of Color. And that just led to having an agent, and at a young age doing TV commercials, doing modeling, making appearances, guest appearances and guest spots on a lot of different television from the 1950s as a character actor, as a child character actor. So if you really get in there and start digging into my IMDb, you will find that I have been in front of the camera for over 60 years, probably more like about 63 to 65 years, I've been doing things. Now, there were a lot of guest spots on famous shows, all the way from Lassie to Sky King, Sheena of the Jungle, and maybe more popular shows that people remember in a kind of Western format. Since I was from the Midwest, I understood Dodge City and a lot of that. I ended up on Gunsmoke. Amanda Blake had seen me play piano at the Long Branch Saloon in Dodge City, Kansas, and pulled me onto the show. And so I'm the piano player that you'll see a lot of times there in Gunsmoke says, don't shoot the piano player, he's doing the best he can. Well, that's me. So I can still play piano. If you hear me play piano, you'll think it's a player piano because I'm literally all over the keys. And I had a wonderful, wonderful teacher, Jesse Clark, who taught me to play that way. And then later on in life, I became very good friends with the Coltrane family and studied keyboards with Alice Coltrane. John and Alice were deeply inspirational to me and pulled me completely into the jazz movement. And probably today, as a musician, I'm primarily known as a jazz musician, as a jazz keyboardist or jazz pianist. I play with a band in Las Vegas. Even at the age of 70, I'm still out there playing. And primarily now I play a lot of Hammond, B7. You'll hear me out there on the organ doing all those like 1950s riffs. And I have 3 albums out. And I do sing. I'm a jazz singer here in Las Vegas and, sing at a lot of different nightclubs. I'm one of the main piano players at the Four Seasons Hotel for all of their special events like weddings, and you'll see me up there playing. And I also perform like for Nevada Broadcasters Association. I've sung on stage in the Broadway show Alice in Wonderland. And, I perform in a lot of different shows and musicals, Steamathon. I was out there performing. You will see me all over town performing in Las Vegas. I suppose that in this last 20 years that I have lived here at Balmont Manor, I have literally become a Las Vegas star, a Las Vegas headliner, because I made appearances in so many shows. And at the Main Street Station in downtown Las Vegas, I'm actually on a slot machine. They have a Doc Phineas slot machine. So, I am very, very branded now as being a Las Vegas person, but for years, I lived in the West Coast. I lived in Hollywood. Actually, I lived in Hollywood in the home of Charlie Chaplin. Charlie Chaplin had an amazing movie studio, and it was on Gardner Avenue, and he had the whole place made by these Portuguese architects that had come in to work on Wizard of Oz, and many of them stayed on, and they did a lot of architecture in the West Hollywood area. And you'll still see my house there that was Charlie Chaplin's house on Gardner Avenue. It was Gardner Studios. There was a pond in front of the house that had live flamingos, if you can imagine. And I slept in Charlie Chaplin's bedroom for over 20 years. And I thought it was very interesting when one of my most recent movies was the movie Duds with Jeff Zampino and just a fantastic group of actors. I really enjoyed so much making this movie, and it did very well. 15 film festivals we won, including Tokyo Film Festival, and sort of appeared all over the world as a tribute to Charlie Chaplin. And that movie was basically made to go eventually to Ireland. And in Ireland, it was in the Charlie Chaplin Film Festival as a tribute to him. But the character I played as a hobo was very much like, you know, his little tramp character. And I so enjoyed like making a lot of these movies about old Hollywood characters, because I was an old Hollywood character. I was basically in Hollywood working from the 1950s on, and it just through the blessing of getting to know wonderful people, I got to know fantastic people. I consider myself probably Tony Curtis's best friend. You know, I made 3 movies with him, and he pulled me into his production team. I designed clothes for him. I designed his home. We did so many things together, and I stood up with Tony when he got married here in Las Vegas to his last wife, Jill Vandenberg. Tony was just absolutely a magnificent, wonderful man. So much fun to act with in movies. And also, you know, I knew a bevy of people from my time in Hollywood that were very close, dear personal friends. Melody Thomas Scott on Young and Restless, to Cynthia Sykes on Policewoman and Sing Elsewhere, to Betty Davis. I did some creative work with Barbra Streisand. I was very, very close friends with Barbara Stanwyck and helped her put her home together. And I would say Loretta Young. Probably all of these stars are long before a lot of young people even know who they are today. But they were great stars in that time period, and I was so honored to get to work with them, to know people like Val Kilmer, and to work with Tom Cruise, more modern day people. You know, I was always that guy that they could pull in who could create a really fascinating, interesting character. So I not only had this archaeological life going on, and as a college professor and all of that, but I was also on the side an actor, and I'm still acting today. I'm currently featured in 6 television reality shows, and I'm also featured in 2 new movies, one a Stephen King movie called Mute, and the other one Duds. And I have 2 more movies I've signed to on the way, and 2 new reality television shows that are in progress right now. So they do say I am a bit of a hot property, I guess at the age of 70, which I think is really quite amusing. So I think a lot of people probably think, how does Doc do this? How do I keep going at this pace at the age of 70, where most people are slowing down? Some of my friends who are classmates of mine can't even walk. Other people I know, you know, are no longer with us. They don't make it even to the age of 70. So number one, I feel so blessed, almost like I'm living on borrowed time, to have had such a wide, amazing life where, you know, I've traveled extensively in Africa and Brazil, gone down the Amazon River in a canoe, you know, traveled the Nile all the way through Nubia into Ethiopia, into the White Nile, been throughout Africa into the Congo and Zimbabwe, Malawi, and much time in Kenya, wonderful dear friends in Morocco, and traveled even into Timbuktu in Mali on camel safaris, and then really extensive work in India where I lived, you know, a yogic lifestyle along the Ganges River and every day going to archaeological digs, oftentimes climbing through ancient tombs in India and being confronted by cobras. I've had a spitting cobra right in my face, close enough to just literally take me out. Did not happen. You know, and survived through malaria, diphtheria, all sorts of pandemics going on over these last 50 years. And of course, the AIDS crisis and all of these things passed me by. And I just kept working. And I think it's because of, number one, a very positive attitude about life. I never think of myself as being an old person. I don't even find 70 to be old. I just find it to be some kind of phenomena that I'm at this moment. But my mental state and my energy and even my body is the same body I had when I was 20 years old. So somehow I just continue to regenerate myself, I think, spiritually, using all the things that I've learned from yogis and masters and shaman and medicine men and great Christian saints and marvelous Buddhists and phenomenal Hindu gurus have all shared with me their pathways. And I was that one person sitting there, let me get my notepad. And I started taking down notes on everything these wonderful people had to share, because I thought in the back of my mind, I'm going to have some student in college who is going to want me to talk about these things. I'm going to have somebody who maybe can't travel the way that I can travel, is going to want to know this information. In my last book, From India with Love, I had a woman tell me, she said, I'm bedfast basically in Las Vegas. I can no longer travel and I'm not in great health, but I travel in your books. I live through you vicariously. So don't ever stop writing books. Don't ever stop sharing on Antiques Roadshow or Mysteries at the Museum or on Pawn Stars. Just continue to stay out there and keep telling me about these wonderful things, giving me the backstory, sharing your stories of adventure way off the beaten tourist path, telling the story of history through the eyes of a scientist, through the eyes of an archaeologist who's looking at specific artifacts as a way of telling people about how this journey of mankind went. And as we look back over the history of the most noble achievements of man, the history of all the great wars where millions of people were perished, and the history of the great kings and queens and leaders who emerged throughout all of life's challenges, and even wanting to know what was the common man doing back in many of these time periods that I research and study. So how does Doc keep going? How does Doc keep functioning like the ever-ready battery? How is it that I'm able to go on all of these TV shows? How is it that I am still doing my own stunts in movies? How is it that I am teaching the main yoga teacher at Caesar's Palace, and I'm out there with so many stars like Sir Elton John, with Sir Richard Branson, sharing what I know about yoga, Qigong, various ways to keep the body rejuvenated, to keep the body healthy, and still being of the mind where I can get in there and teach a class in Sanskritic paradigms and be able to speak and read and write Sanskrit perfectly with a 70-year-old mind. How do you do these things? What is it at the basis of who Doc Phineas is that allows me to be 30 people living 30 lives in one lifetime? I would say that is my spiritual practice, my spirituality, my inquiry into the mysterious side, the occidental side of life, is the foundation stone from which the magic and the wizardry can occur that I'm bringing onto myself. The magic and wizardry and healing that I'm pumping out to other people in the universe. And the magical ability to just stay relevant and to keep working with a positive attitude. If I did not have my spiritual practices, this would probably be absolutely impossible to function at such a high vibrational level at this space and time. So if you're looking for me, some sort of key to life, some sort of golden bullet, shall we say, that you can do personally, that you can take from me sharing this video, that you can take from me opening my home and my heart and my life to you, it is, do not neglect the spiritual principle. Do not neglect the spiritual side of life. It's just as viable, just as important, and just as profound as the scientific side of life. I see spirituality and science together, working hand to hand in my life, creating the person that I am. The great Indian saint Sri Aurobindo Ghosh wrote in his amazing magnus opus, he wrote the story of the life divine. And in that story, he talks about how to merge your spirituality with your creativity, with your science, and with the deepest things that are important to you, the deepest meanings that you personally have in life. But you cannot neglect one for the other. And I think I've always looked at Lord Buddha where he talks about the middle pathway. Buddha always says, walk that middle path hand in hand with science and spirituality. Walk that middle path with material things and non-material things. Walk that middle path in having fun with what you've collected in life, but don't feel any attachment to it. If you have attachment to your things, then you're going to suffer, right? But if you have no attachment, you can collect things, and you have just as much joy in giving it away or presenting it to a museum as you do collecting it. That's the big circle of life. We're here on this planet, I think, to become enlightened. That's the most important reason why we're here. So that means we have to grow up. We have to make some progress as an individual. We have to open our mind to the highest, most noble concepts that we can fill our minds with, rather than just filling our minds with a lot of garbage and spending our whole life on mundane things, on just, let's say, playing video games over and over and over without making any real intellectual process on answering that time memorial question, right? Who am I? When will you spend time in answering that question? Who am I? What do I have to offer to life? What do I have to give to people on the screen that isn't just telling them what to do in life, but it is showing them how to be compassionate, how to care, breaking down those old walls, those old barriers within ourselves that keep us from being an open, loving, compassionate, kind, caring human being. So when I act on films, I have the same Weltanschauung that I have as a college professor. I'm teaching. In my movies, I'm teaching. I'm not telling, I'm showing. In classrooms, I am giving the history. And hopefully all these things together will enrich a person's life, will help a person deal with all the challenges that we have in the modern world today. With that being said, let me share a few of my spiritual practices that I have here in this room. And this is a very interesting effigy of Sri Anandamayi Ma. Anandamayi Ma was my teacher in India, and I found her to be absolutely a marvelous spiritual personality. Mother literally was one of the greatest gurus of the 20th century. She started out in a small area of Bangladesh in Dhaka. And she became a great spiritual personality that attracted all of the gurus from her time period to regard her as a mother. She was the guru of Indira Gandhi and many, many big, important world leaders. Mahatma Gandhi had come to see her. Mother Teresa of Calcutta had come to see her. And she traveled throughout India meeting people constantly. I was very fortunate that she traveled into my life, or I traveled into her life, because a guru is your guide. A guru is your main teacher. And as a main teacher, for me, she was absolutely fantastic. So she sits here in my home and we meditate together. In the morning, I sit here, I look at her, she looks at me. And Mother left this world in 1982, but you would swear when you look at this effigy, this murti of Ma, that she's still here today. And I personally don't think that she went anywhere. I think that she continues to love us and guide us. I am probably one of the first Westerners in the world to share Anandamay Ma with America, with Americans in the West. And I did so in my first book, which was called Bliss Now. Now just take a moment with Ma. You'll see what I'm talking about. She is, in fact, a spiritual powerhouse and a wonderful teacher. And I keep her here in my upper tea room, actually dressed in some of her own attire, and just like she would sit in India on her Vyasana with other people. You can see painting behind her of Krishna. This is a very important painting, which comes from Rajasthan, the Shriji. In this particular room, I had a lot of artifacts from my Native American studies and from my Native America adventures, but you'll see some beautiful, beautiful Kachina dolls. This one here actually brings the rain. And I also have Crow Mother, this incredible piece that was made by Jimmy Crow in Aribi, in New Aribi in Hopi Nation. This phenomenal painting behind me, which was one of his paintings from First Mesa. And once again, you'll see his representation, which is quite rare, of the Great Spirit, flanked on each side by Kachina dolls that are over 100 years old, one of the Buffalo Doll, and one also of the Eagle Dancer. This room has a lot of beautiful turquoise jewelry, and you'll see me wear a lot of turquoise jewelry. And probably people are wondering, well, why does Doc wear so many pieces of turquoise? This piece of turquoise here actually came from Black Mountain in Nevada. It's our main turquoise source for the area of Las Vegas, and you can just see the color is like a deep, deep cerulean. You just don't even hardly see that color. Most turquoise is kind of like what we find in Kingman, Arizona. These are Kingman pieces. But this is from Las Vegas mines, and it's a deeper, deeper color of cerulean. Turquoise for Native Americans basically meant to speak your truth. It relates to the fifth chakra. And anyone who wears turquoise, you know, is seeking protection. Protection is a big, big, important aspect of wearing turquoise. I had a leader of the Paiute Nation come to me, and he said, "Do you know why we wear turquoise?" And I said, "Tell me, I'm getting my notepad now." And he said, "The reason why we wear turquoise is it makes a warrior fearless. It takes away panic attacks. It takes away any anxiety. The minute you put on, you start feeling peaceful. It is a protective stone, and it also relates to your throat chakra. So when you wear turquoise, the impetus is to speak the truth." I like that. I like that a lot. So you will see in my collections, of course, that I do have quite a bit of turquoise. And these are old pieces that come from collecting many, many, many years, and mostly from my time in Taos, New Mexico. So my spiritual practice begins every day here in what I call my Moroccan bedroom. So you will literally see my bed is draped with 50 yards of Moroccan fabric, And when I rest here like a baby, I love it because you'll see a lot of my house is all tinted. And I love sleeping in a tent. I think probably that came from, my times living in teepees and wigwams in Oklahoma to literally being in the Sahara. In my bedroom, I have a very, very large shrine to Tibetan Buddha, and particularly to the turquoise Buddha. The turquoise Buddha is a very, very, very profound Buddha, and he is basically a Buddha which is for healing. So this dates back to the time of the first Dalai Lama, and the turquoise Buddha basically is the Buddha that they appeal to for any kind of healing. He brings a healing into the body. They also initiate in their practice the use of sound, playing, various Tibetan bowls. So I love playing Tibetan bowls. I use that as part of my spiritual practice every morning when I wake up, and as the start of my Qigong practice. So we would do a chant with this bowl, which would be Teyata Om Bengenze Maha Bengenze Ranza Samugate Soham. Teyata Om Bengenze Maha Bengenze Ranza Samugate Soham. Teyata Om Bengenze Maha Bengenze Ranza Samugate Soham. And with that chant, one goes into a deep, deep meditative state where you invoke the healing powers of the Blue Medicine Buddha. And that is a very, very healing Buddha. Sometimes he is close to being turquoise. Other times he is cobalt blue. But this Buddha is, and the Dalai Lama will tell you, as I sat in so many of his lectures, and he explained to me and certainly made me a believer that this particular Buddha is the greatest one to turn to when you need healing. So I very much have become respectful of the path of the Blue Buddha. And you'll see that I have a company out there called Turquoise Buddha, and Turquoise Buddha is the company that I turn to when I am teaching Qigong. These sounds take us deep within ourselves. They initiate a healing process. They bring beauty, peace, love, and a higher vibrational feeling into the body. In fact, some of the research that we have done on the singing bowls in Berkeley have shown that people actually went through a change of their DNA. So I'm very, very happy to share Qigong with people. When they come to visit me in Las Vegas, I try to get them into some kind of spiritual practice that I think will be helpful in their healing. And so many of us have so many issues in healing right now. I have seniors coming to me that can't walk anymore, people who have very serious neuropathy. People will come to me who are, just their inner organs are not working properly anymore. It's like driving a 60-year-old car, right? Things start to break down. And so what I try to do is bring them into my lair and teach them some of the wonderful practices that I have learned over the years, practices that basically, are the heart and the soul of the Qigong movement. And Qigong is a special practice which comes by moving the flow of energy. So Qi is inner Qi. Inner Qi is energy. And you're reaching up and finding the Qi, shaping it, and pulling the Qi into your body. You pull it in, then you reach and you're doing clouds. This is for calming the body, for calming the blood pressure, and then moving in a way that you reshape the chi using special sounds of the singing bowls, using almost like a dance form, a way of getting your body moving and to bring chi completely through your body in areas where you might have blockages. So you're working in a way, combining movement from Tai Chi and from Chinese martial arts to rejuvenate the body. And that is Qigong. And I can literally tell you the benefits of my studies with Qigong and yoga, my experimentation into meditation, and really developing a yoga sadhana, a yoga practice that is daily, every single day. I've been engaged in this since the age of 17, was when I made my transition. Diet, breathing techniques through pranayama, yogic activity, old school hatha yoga, and combining that with the power of Qigong. I have literally healed my body over and over and over throughout life. I take no meds. Like most people my age, they're on heart medicine, they're on blood pressure medicine. My blood pressure is 122/72 with no medication. I don't take statin because my cholesterol is fine, because I'm primarily a vegetarian. You know, I eat lots of salad, I eat lots of vegetables, everything is natural in my diet. I don't line up to eat hamburgers. I eat natural, real, living food, fruit that comes off trees, and that has really saved my life. Nobody taught me this. I had to literally find these things out for myself. But they are a key to life. If you look at my life, I can't just superficially say, oh, I'm a movie star and these are my movies. I couldn't make a movie if I didn't have all of these inner things going on. That is the electricity that comes on the screen. When you see me in a TV commercial for Virgin Airways, or you see me in a TV commercial for Medicare, or you see me in a television commercial for Chase Bank, the reason why that carries energy is because all the spiritual practices that I'm doing on a daily basis, that's behind what I do in front of camera. And if you see me in a movie and you go, wow, I saw Doc in Duds, I love Duds, I loved his character that he played. That character, if I wasn't doing yoga, if I wasn't doing meditation, that character would just not be possible. So that's how life fits into a total picture, where I prefer to do this kind of show and share my life with you rather than doing some superficial interview that I could do like on The Tonight Show. I think this really gives you a look into my life, and I'm trying to share with you those keys of life. And if people brand me and say, oh, this is the world's most interesting man, well, you can just say that in a superficial way, but what is behind that? What makes me interesting? That you can pull something for yourself. And you may say, my life is phony baloney, there's nothing in there for me. But you might find one thing, wow, Doc said he does this, I'm gonna try it and see if it makes a difference. I'm gonna try some daily movement, some Qigong, see if that will get my tired body going again. See if it will improve my attitude. See if it will help me have the strength to make it through the pandemic. We cannot go through life mongering fear about life. You have to believe in yourself, believe in your immunity system, believe that you have the ability to survive, and you survive. But when you engage in constant negativity, I don't like it, I can't do it, negativity creates flu symptoms. I've seen it in too many people. And I learned a long time ago that if I were to survive, the way to do it was positive attitude, waking up every day and doing my spiritual practice to the Blue Buddha, so praying on my knees to Lord Jesus. I invoke every body, every form, every pathway that I can to get spiritual help. Krishna, Shiva, all of them, I want to know every single way. As a professor of comparative religion, I want to know every single way throughout history that God has attempted to guide mankind, his instructions, and what that experience in life, how it affects culture, how it affects art, how it affects man's noblest achievements and noblest thoughts. And is there guidance there that will help us as humanity survive the future and really build the kind of planet that we want on planet Earth, what we want it to be, not just a place of gross war and consternation, battles, but a place that is a garden, a place of peace, a place where we attempt to understand and have compassion for one another, of Earth, a place where we encourage people to their most noble achievements, whether it's art, dance, music, sports, ballet, architecture. What noble things can we do for this planet to make it absolutely a diamond revolving in the sky? I think that's where we need to turn our thoughts, and not just on me, greed, and how can I put myself out there? What can I do to be rich? It's what can I do to contribute to creating a fabulous and wonderful world. That's where the focus should be. So that's what's behind my spiritual practice. And with that being said, I think we're going to transition here. As you can see, I keep changing my hats and my clothes. I absolutely love all the different options that I have of things that I can wear. As you can see, it's a lot of fun. And of course, this is me au naturel. But I think I'm going to move over to this hat now. This is a pretty good one. Good color, right? Nice style. And I'm going to move into my library. You can just see from here in perspective how unusual my home is. It's got this amazing balcony, and it literally looks down on so many wonderful pieces of art, so many fabulous collections. In my house, I literally have 5,000 movies and 10,000 books. So I designed this house where it would be the superb place to hang out, just in case we ever had something like a pandemic. I was already on it. I was already creating this amazing museum months and months, years ago, just in case something like this ever happened, where I would get shut down and I would not be able to travel the way that I was used to traveling. I literally created this realm of my library, 10,000 books and over 5,000 movies in-house that are in all different forms, from DVD to VHS. I even have beta tapes that never even made it to DVD that are fascinating, that are about history, historical drama, historical costuming, stuff that has scientific relevance. And also this particular space is where I create my books. I've written 5 books, and my most recent book is From India with Love. that has become a bestseller in New York. And thank you, all of you out there who have bought this book and written to me how much you've enjoyed reading it. And, what I'm trying to do is share with people the important things of my journey, the things that are shareable. But I think one passage that sort of says it all at the very beginning of this book is I wrote, "There are single moments of time that contain an entire eternity. Perhaps nothing feels more eternal than the golden sands of the Thar Desert in northern Rajasthan. From atop your camel, you can see that for miles and miles, there is only the golden sands, the golden light from the shifting dunes. Hot winds blow across your face. And there is only you, your camel, and the sand. There is something breathtaking in that kind of solitude and awareness of the self within the self is unavoidable." I think my books I intended to be a journey through time, a journey through space, and the marvelous adventure on planet Earth. These bodies that we so revere, that we so believe is us, is really just a spacesuit. Our body is a suit that our soul wears, our consciousness wears every day, so that we can walk through life and have experience upon top of experience, on top of experience, on top of experience. So some people become obsessed with their body being ill and trying to get it well so that they can experience something. Other people say, hey, look, it's not an end in itself. My body is the vehicle in which I can have the adventure. And you come into life to live this amazing adventure so that you, too, can become conscious and enlightened. To me, the main goal of our experience on earth, of taking birth, of creating our homes and creating our families, perpetuating our legacy, but at the end is to become enlightened. Knowledge is power. The Bible says, ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. So knowledge and truth should set you free so that your experience of life takes you higher. You are now higher in consciousness. And hopefully at the end of your life, you have learned the way onto immortality. I think when I studied yoga, the word yoga comes from the Sanskrit word yuj, Y-U-J. It means to tie or to connect yourself. So yoga means getting connected. Those are the practices that we do daily that keep blood flowing in your legs, that strengthen the heart, that strengthen your breathing and your respiration, but more importantly, that connect you to your higher power. If you come to life and you don't get connected to the higher energy moving through life, moving through earth, it's almost like you've wasted a lifetime where you've never really lived. You've never really experienced life and all that life can teach you. You shouldn't back away from life. You should get involved in life, go deeper in life. Try to collect every reasonable experience that you can collect that make you smarter, that make you more of a time traveler, that gives you knowledge in which to unlock the secrets of life. And hang out with the saints, hang out with the enlightened people, hang out with the swamis, hang out with the time travelers, hang out with the historians. Anybody who can teach you, who can give you a deeper experience in life, that's the person you want to seek. And that's the person you want to hang out with. So, if you look at Doc Phineas and you try to figure out why do people say this is one of Earth's most interesting persons, if I look at myself and I think, in what ways am I more interesting than anybody else? I don't think so. I find everybody to be interesting. Everybody has their own message. Everybody has their own enlightenment. Everybody has what they feel in their heart that they know. I respect that. But what maybe sets me apart from the crowd is that I really went out there on the trail. And I went to the most remote places of the planet, seeking art, beauty, things that we can collect in our museums that tell the history of mankind. Beautiful objects. I found gorgeous golden earrings on the Isle of Crete that ended up in the Metropolitan Museum. I found an amazing mummy of a falcon in Egypt that is in the Cairo Museum. And all of these things, these treasures, I never saw for me, but I see them for humanity. Because here is something that is 4,000 years old. Something that tells a story. And something that maybe will inspire you to look at your collections at home and find out what you have that is a treasure. And in some cases, maybe certain things that are haunted with a lot of old ghosts. And those ghosts tell a story too. It may be a story of tragedy. It may be something that was done that was wrongful. But lessons in life that we can learn from, so we don't continue to make the same mistakes. To me, this is what creates an interesting person. Someone, a time traveler, who comes to life and lives with purpose and consciousness. It's a way of collecting stories, of really getting in there and going on the adventure of life, whether it's acting, offering music, or painting, or dance, or sports, being an author, whatever your contribution is, doing that to your absolute best of your ability to leave something profound behind as a key to the people, the young people who are out there searching, trying to find meaning. You leave what you know. You leave a legacy of your life, your being, the things that you learned, your enlightenment, in what ways that you can. That is what it means to be an interesting person. And hopefully that is what it means to be a real traveler in time. Someone who is awake and aware in the moment in which they are breathing, living, alive on planet Earth. So from the old wizard, from the old time traveler, from America's favorite professor, I am Doc Phineas. And I want to thank you all for listening to my story and for time traveling with me. And I hope in the course of this story, of this small documentary that I've made for you, you too have learned something, maybe a little bit more about me, and hopefully something in there that I can share with you that you find inspiring or that you find of value for your own life. Then that makes me feel I really am one of the world's most interesting persons. So, thank you for going on the journey with me today. Thank you for joining me here in my lair of Balmont Manor. And I look forward to many wonderful future adventures with you. I look forward to the opportunity of sharing with you the keys to life, those things which will help you figure life out, maybe solve some problems, and hopefully make your experience in life a little bit richer. Thank you for joining me. I'm Doc Phineas, and wishing all of you from Balmont Manor an absolutely incredible and fabulous life. Namaste.